Welcome everybody to Snake Cinema Reviews. I'm your host, Prince Elias. Today I got my girl Morticia, and today we are reviewing Fear Street 1978. I believe that's it. And that is Fear Street 1978 is on Netflix, and it's actually part 2 of a three trilogy, movie series based off the books of R.L. Stine. And so I've already reviewed part 1. Go check that out. And this is part 2, 1978. Now part 2 is connected to part 1. I'm not going to give any spoilers, but they are connected. But part 2 is taking place in the 70s, and for me it gives way more homage to the slashers of that time, the Friday the 13th, the sleepaway camps, stuff like that. So it pays homage to those films, but still keeps the spirit of R.L. Stine in his books, especially the Fear Street series. Like I mentioned in part 1 review, R.L. Stine did not care about happy endings when it came to the Fear Street books. He did not care about happy endings or the good guys winning. It was always a twist. It was always something else going on. The heroes think they won, and then something else happens, and then that's the end of the book, and you're like, man, I feel bummed out. But that's why I love those books growing up. And so this is no different. But the difference between this, and there are pros to this that I like better than part 1, but there are things in part 1 that I love better than this. And so let me just get into that without spoilers. This one, 1978, the kills, the carnage candy, the murders, 10 times better than part 2. Part 1, sorry. Part 2, the 1978, is 10 times better than 1994 film. So I like the kills, like the carnage candy, like the slashing and dashing. So that's the pro. But the con of this film is what I like part 1 better, is the acting. The characters, I feel for the characters more in the first one than I do in this one. Not saying that the characters are horrible in this one, it's just that the first 10-15 minutes of the film, well, I wouldn't say first 10 or 15 minutes of the film, the first 10-15 minutes of the 70s part 2, it was just rough. Some of the characters, the dialogue, and just how these characters acted, they were so cliche. And so, I am the bad guy, I am the bully, you know what I'm saying? And it was just, and the dialogue was just, some of it was so cringy in the beginning. It got better along. You just got to get through that first part. Ooh, sorry. So I would say that I cared for the characters more. The acting wasn't as bad in the first one as it is in this one. This one, it showed that, some of these kids probably never acted before this film, and it shows, or at least the writing showed. But it was, yeah, I was not feeling that at all. So it was rough in the beginning, but it does get better. So if you're watching part 1 and you feel the same way I feel in the beginning, like, I'm not feeling this acting, I'm not feeling these characters, keep going, it gets better. But part 1 is 10 times better than part 2 on that front. But I still enjoy it. I still enjoyed this film. It was very good. I highly recommend it. It's on Netflix. You don't have to go to the theater and waste money. Buy it. Waste gas. Just if you have Netflix and you see it on your menu, just click it and watch it. It's a good time. Fun time. But yeah, it does have a few flaws. It's not 100% perfect. But if I had to rank it, I would rank this film, I'm going to say 6 out of 10 for me. 6 out of 10, because that first half was rough. It was rough. The beginning, I hated these characters. I wanted everybody to die, including the main characters that we're following. The sisters. I just wanted everybody. I just wanted everybody to get slashed. No happy ending. Bada bing, bada boom. Just get rid of everybody. I will say this. This movie isn't afraid to kill kids. In horror films, if it's a teenager, you die. If it's an adult, you die. If it's a kid, somehow you miraculously get saved at the last minute. They didn't care about kids. R.L. Stine said, fuck these kids. Like, he did not care. which is the same for the Fear Street books, but the writers and director of this film said they didn't care about these kids. So some kids are gonna die. So if you have an issue with that in horror movies, I mean, it's a horror movie. People could die, people get killed, but yeah, so it's not a spoiler, but it is a spoiler. Kids gonna die. It's not just the teenagers and the adults. Anyways, that is my review. 6.5 or 6 out of 10 is what I give part 2, 1978. I like part 1, 1994, 10 times better, but that's how I feel. We'll see what part 3 is. Part 3 takes place in 1666. I'm not a big fan of period pieces in any genre, whether it's horror, romance, comedy. I don't care about the olden days. Every time I watch those films, I just think about how dirty and stanky and nasty it was back in those days, and how I'm glad I wasn't born back in those days. But yeah, so take it. I'm only watching it out of obligation because I already watched the first 2, and I want to see how the story connects and how it ends. But my predictions, honestly, I never really predict films, but my predictions is I don't think nobody's gonna make it out alive. Because I remember reading the Fear Street books, and I remember following these characters, and then the last page, the survivor, sole survivor, got axed at the end. So, you know, it happens. R.L. Stine is an asshole, but I love him for that. As an author, as a creative, he was like, I don't care, I'll kill them all at the last minute. So I don't think anybody's gonna survive. I don't think they're gonna. I think the witch, monster, whatever, is gonna win in the end. That's my prediction, but we'll see. In part 3 coming this Friday, it's Fear Street 1666. So comment below, have you started this series? Have you watched this series? What do you think? Do you agree with me on the acting and dialogue? Do you agree with me on the kills? Comment below, let me know, and I'll catch y'all in the next review. I am your host, Prince Elias. This is Morticia, and this is Snake Cinema Reviews. Peace.